Here are my 2021 NBA Western Conference predictions for the playoffs. Yesterday I did my Eastern Conference. Today we're doing the West. The West is always tough, and my first round is going to be a good indication of that. So let's start off first talking about the 1-8 matchup, the Utah Jazz versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Out of all the first round matchups, this is the matchup that a lot of people are most likely going to overlook just based off of the names of the team, the Utah Jazz and the Memphis Grizzlies. That does not sound exciting whatsoever to watch, but it's going to be good basketball. I feel like the Memphis Grizzlies are a couple of years away from becoming the next Utah Jazz. They're very defensive minded like the Utah Jazz, and they're just missing a couple of pieces here and there to take the next step to surround Ja. The big thing for the Utah Jazz is Donovan Mitchell, whether or not if he comes back 100%. If he does, it should be over real fast. But if he doesn't and he takes a little bit to get back into game shape, it could go, 5 or 6 games. Ultimately, I have the Jazz winning in 5. They're better coached, better overall team. And it's going to be interesting seeing how the Grizzlies move forward because they're obviously a team on the rise now. The 4-5 matchup, the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Dallas Mavericks. Another rematch of last year. It's going to be another good one in the West. The West is so stacked. I could easily see this going to 7 games. It really comes down to the health and the productivity of Kristaps Porzingis for the Dallas Mavericks to advance. But ultimately, I have the Clippers beating the Mavericks once again. Pandemic P. Hopefully he balls out. Probably not. Maybe he will, but probably not. There's a lot riding on those two, Porzingis and Paul George, to actually perform in this year's playoffs. We'll see which one of them does, because whoever doesn't, I feel like the organization is definitely going to be taking a look at their future with the team. More specifically, Porzingis, because Paul George just signed an extension, but you never know what could happen. The 3-6 matchup, the Denver Nuggets versus the Portland Trail Blazers. I absolutely love the Portland Trail Blazers, so this one's a little tough for me, but I have the Nuggets winning in 7. It's going to be another hard-fought series between the Portland Trail Blazers and the Denver Nuggets. I feel like if the Blazers literally got any other matchup, they would have a better chance at advancing, but this one is going to be a long drawn-out series because the Denver Nuggets are just so big compared to the Portland Trail Blazers roster. They run 3-6-3 guys. They're going to get bullied, and the crazy thing is I actually really enjoyed the Blazers roster prior to the trade for Norman Powell with guys like Gary Trent and Rodney Hood. It gave them a little bit more depth, and now they don't really got that. The only good thing going on for the Blazers is that they're finally healthy when it matters the most. But the way Nikola Jokic is playing, I see them winning in 7. The 2-7 matchup, the Phoenix Suns versus the Los Angeles Lakers. Another good series, or at least I hope so. I see this going to game 7, and if the Lakers are going to lose to anybody in the Western Conference, it's going to be by the Phoenix Suns when they're the most vulnerable. Obviously, with the injury of LeBron's ankle and him saying he'll never be at 100%, whether that's an excuse or not, him and AD are coming back from injury at the perfect time for the playoffs, and we'll see whether or not if it becomes a problem. A great storyline of Chris Paul versus LeBron James, and a chance for Devin Booker to show everybody he's that guy. A very similar situation for DeAndre Ayton as well, to show everybody why he was the #1 overall pick a few years back. It's a dangerous spot to be in for the Lakers, but I ultimately have them advancing. LeBron's not going out in the first round. Moving on to the second round, we got the Utah Jazz versus the Los Angeles Clippers. Something about the Clippers makes me feel weird, because they're very talented in terms of having Kawhi Leonard and Paul George before the memes, but I feel like they're missing something, whether that's being a point guard or a head coach. I feel like the Utah Jazz are just the better coached, better overall team. And even though, as I say that, I still don't feel like the Utah Jazz are going to win. They're going to put up a great fight, just like the Dallas Mavericks will against the Clippers. And although Donovan Mitchell showed out in last year's bubble, The league's all about superstars, and having Kawhi Leonard on your team is always a plus. I strongly feel the Clippers will figure things out and give the people the matchup they felt they deserved between the Clippers and the Lakers. Whether or not both these teams advance to the second round or even to the Western Conference Finals is up for debate, but I feel the Clippers will close it out between the Utah Jazz in 7. Moving on to the Denver Nuggets versus the Los Angeles Lakers. This is the other matchup I have for the second round. Last year, Jamal Murray had an excellent bubble performance in the playoffs against the Lakers. And this year, the Denver Nuggets don't have that luxury of having Jamal Murray. He's out, he's hurt. And this is going to fall solely on Nikola Jokic, which is crazy because he might just win MVP. But Jokic alone isn't good enough to beat the Los Angeles Lakers at full health. Unless I'm somehow proven wrong and Jokic just shows that maybe the Nuggets are better with Jamal Murray, which would be absolutely crazy to see. Last year's Western Conference Finals between the Nuggets and Lakers was over in 5 games, and that was with Murray. So I'm going to have to say in the second round between the Nuggets and Lakers, this is only going to 5. The Nuggets are a good matchup for the Portland Trail Blazers. Same thing with the Phoenix Suns and the Lakers. And this matchup between the Nuggets and Lakers, I just feel isn't the best for the Nuggets. Western Conference Finals. The Los Angeles Lakers versus the Los Angeles Clippers. Will this actually happen? Probably not. But if it does, it would be nice to see. And it would also be nice to see LeBron go back to the finals and try to repeat. Dennis Schroeder is playing for a max contract, apparently. A similar situation with Andre Drummond, even though, you know, he's Andre Drummond. He's going to get rebounds, double-double machine. But outside of stuffing the stat sheet, a matchup between Kawhi and LeBron, Paul George and Anthony Davis, that's going to be fun if it happens. And if it does happen, I have the Lakers winning and moving on to the finals in 6 games. So the Lakers are my Western Conference champions going to the NBA Finals. My last video I talked about the East, and in that video I had the Brooklyn Nets advancing, which leads us into the championship round between the Brooklyn Nets and the Los Angeles Lakers. Ultimately, I feel like this is championship or bust for the Brooklyn Nets, and if they don't win a championship, it's going to be looked at as such a travesty. One of the best talent constructed teams in the league, and they fell to win a chip with all that firepower. That's a bad look for the Brooklyn Nets if they lose. So I have the Brooklyn Nets winning in game 6 against the Lakers and LeBron James not being able to repeat, which is unfortunate, but we haven't seen a team like the Brooklyn Nets, you know, since the Warriors or something. So overall, those are my NBA playoff predictions, East and West. Let me know yours in the comment section below. Did you agree? Did you disagree? Let's talk about it. Thank you for watching. Check out some of these other videos before you go, and I'll talk to you in the next one.